Hi, my name is Thomas Johnson, and I'm the founder and CEO of GetUpNGetFit Wellness Concierge. And I'm also a C suite advisor and investor. And you're listening to the How May I Serve You podcast, where I'm constantly on the quest to surround myself with the best coaches while learning how to better serve our executive clientele by asking them, How may I serve you? Today's show is sponsored by Get Up and Get Fit. Get Up and Get Fit will be providing students with textbooks and school supplies in Cambodia in honor of our guest today, as well as our philanthropic mission to impact at least 50,000 people per year. And today's guest is Josselyn Herman-Saccio. Jocelyn, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome, awesome. So Jocelyn is a transformative coach and course leader with more than 30 years of experience as an author, CEO, and community activist. Founder of a nonprofit and coach, she has worked with all kinds of people to empower them to live the life of their dreams now and ultimately be unmessable with. Jocelyn, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, one quick question: what made you decide to go with that name for your company?
Well, Unmessable with is sort of like my brand. I've been toying with that. I heard that word many years ago, probably more than 20 years ago, from a mentor of mine named
Okay.
Richard Condon. He said it in passing, and I latched onto it. I loved it. Isn't it the greatest word? You
Yes.
know, and it's not like don't mess with me, like being tough. That's not really what it's about. It's about being able to fulfill on your vision no matter what the circumstances that life throws at you, because
Mm,
life does throw stuff at us, right?
yes.
So it's not about having perfect circumstances. It's about who you can be in the face of any circumstance and be able to make a difference with anyone at any time under any circumstance, being someone who is unmessable with.
Whew, I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
listen, let's dive into your lifestyle, right? So tell us a little bit about who Jocelyn is. The 2 minute
Well,
version.
yeah, oh my God, the 2-minute version. Okay. Well, I'm with my husband almost 30 years. We have 3 kids. So I'm a wife and mother and a daughter to my 91 and 89-year-old parents. So
Nice.
that's, I think, first and foremost, right? The family. But I've been coaching people in the personal transformation arena for more than 30 years. So most of my life has been spent making a difference with people, which was my dream, since I was young. And, I've had the opportunity to do that with hundreds of thousands of people. I'm so fortunate,
Mm,
because of the work that I did both with Landmark and my nonprofit and, as a spokesperson on the news and on shows like yours to be able to reach people and impact them in a way that leaves them in a new world with new opportunities for action and fulfilling the life of their dreams now, not someday.
that's awesome right there.
Mm.
So, Jocelyn, what I like to do with this podcast is actually peel back the layers and
Right.
dive a little deeper. Okay. So, let's go back a tad bit further. Okay. Further back.
Yeah.
Where are you from? And I want you to tell us about your childhood because I
Sure.
believe our upbringing has a profound influence on us as adults, right? So,
Totally.
let's talk about that.
Totally. Both good and bad, right?
Yes.
So I was born in New York City and raised in New York City, and I was adopted when I was 2.5 months old. So, my parents had been waiting probably 3 years for me, and then got a phone call. We've got one for you. Come pick her up on Monday. So I got really lucky. I got the best parents in the whole world, and when I was probably about 9, my parents got separated
Mm,
and they were going to get divorced. And then my mom did a transformative workshop called the EST training back then in the 70s. It was like not in existence anymore. And she came out of that thing like a powerhouse. Like she was unstoppable. And a year later, my dad did it and they got back together.
ooh.
Uh-huh. And they just
Okay.
celebrated like 65 years together. So for me at 11, I was like, "What is this transformation stuff that you guys just did?" So I did it, and I started to develop myself as someone who could fulfill on a mission for myself, for people, to empower people to fulfill on their mission. So my life was really spent inside of that world. I graduated high school a year early and went to college for business. But then during that time, I was like, I really have a dream to be a singer. So I think I'm gonna go open a recording studio. So I did that with a boyfriend. That didn't
Okay.
turn out so good, but it was okay. It was a lesson learned. But when I was little, I wanted to be a singer. That was like my dream. When I was 4, I would sing to my stuffed animals and all that stuff, right? And when my dad was a painter, remember you noticed the painting
Yeah,
behind me.
behind you.
Yeah, my father used to paint, but he stopped painting when I was like 5 years old. So I asked him, "Why'd you stop painting?" And he said, "You don't do your art as your career." So
Mm,
I recall at 5 deciding that was the truth. You can't do your art as your career. So even though I loved singing, I never thought I was going to do it as my career because you can't do your art as your career. That's the truth. Doesn't everybody know that? And I had lots of evidence because I had a lot of friends that were artists and they were starving artists, and I wasn't really interested in being a starving artist.
mhm.
So I went into production and I was running a production company when I was young, like 18, 19 years old. And then I did another transformative program and I saw that that decision had become the truth for me and maybe it wasn't true.
Ooh.
And in that moment, I mean, I could cry just thinking about it. Like my whole world altered. What was possible, or rather, what wasn't possible now became possible. And 3 months later, I got a record deal.
Mm,
And
wow.
that record went number 1 in the country, and it was a completely a dream come true. And I decided I was gonna have my life be about people fulfilling their dreams because it was like a miracle, and it was so magical, and I was like, "People deserve this. People deserve to have the life of their dreams." Not someday, one day, but like now. So that
Mm.
was when I started my company and it's when I started coaching people and that's sort of the Cliff Note version.
Wow, Jocelyn, I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps. Wow, that's amazing right there, and the fact it's funny because the people that love us, right? Our parents, our close friends, sometimes those are the ones that tend to put certain limited beliefs in our minds, right? But
Well, yeah,
you
it's true because you listen to them.
yeah.
But honestly, it isn't what he said. It's what I said about what he said that
Mm,
limited me.
there you
Because
go.
people say stuff all the time.
Mhm.
It's just what you say that constrains you.
Yes. Yes, you're
You
right,
have
'cause
all the power.
you're right, you're right. We do have all the power right there. And also just like being able to have those resources, right? The coaching resource,
Ugh.
the transformative resource at such an early age, that was
It
very
crazy, right?
beneficial,
Oh my god,
you
I
know?
mean, it's insane. When I was 10, before I did transformative work, I loved tennis, and I was
Okay.
playing tennis at, like, my after-school program or whatever, and this girl from school, I'll never forget it, Hillary Adler, who was, like, a natural athlete. I was not a natural athlete, I just loved tennis. She came and played tennis there, and I looked at her and I was like, "Oh my god, she is so good. I am never gonna be as good as Hillary Adler." So I quit tennis.
Mm.
But then after I did transformative work, when I was 13, I tried out for the basketball team and I didn't make it on. And I played basketball every day that year. I found a boys team to join. I was like
Mm.
upset. I just was playing all the time. I didn't stop. I didn't give up. And the next year got on the basketball team. So that's like one little
Oof.
tiny example of the
Yeah.
difference between giving up on a dream and
Mhm.
being unmessable with when it comes to fulfilling your dreams.
Yes, indeed. And also the fact that you didn't make it the first time pushed you, right? Because I have a similar story because
Oh, yeah.
playing football in high school, my freshman year, we did terrible. We did s we were so I mean, we were so, like, horrible in terms of our performance, but I fed off of that. The whole
Mm.
summer, I trained. Now, I'm from Staten Island, right? So we have a whole bunch of hills. So I ran hills, I ran, I lifted, I did park workouts.
It's
The
like
next
Rocky. You were like the
ex
Rocky movie.
exactly, and the next season, we went undefeated.
Ugh, those are the sweetest victories, aren't they? That's the thing about failure. If you let it stop you and take you out of the game, you never get to rise above and grow.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So let's talk about your transition to coaching, right? I know you were influenced at a young age, and you saw the impact, right? The benefits and the impact that it provided you, right? But what made you decide to work with others and not be
Well,
selfish and tell yourself, oh, I got this. I'm just going to do this for myself.
yeah, it's interesting. I When I was in this girl group called Boy Crazy, this is the singing group that I ended up being, and I know Boy Crazy with a K. We can sing but not spell. We were five girls, and then by the end of the 5 years that we were together, we split up when I decided to get married, and people went and did their own things, and the youngest girl wanted to have a manager,
Okay.
and she asked me to be her manager. And I was like, I don't want to be a manager. Every manager we ever had was kind of horrible. So why would I want to be a manager? And she was like, well, I just don't trust anybody else other than you. So can you do it? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll do it until we find somebody. I'll help you find somebody.
Hmm.
So we went meeting managers, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not trusting her to this person or that person. Like she was like my kid sister, right?
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll do it. And all my friends were artists. So I was like, all right, I would do this for free for people to help them fulfill their dreams. Why don't I make a company out of it? And
Hmm.
I started to work with mostly actors and singers to have them fulfill their dreams in the entertainment business.
Nice.
Around the same time, I was like, this doesn't have to be isolated to my company that works with actors. I could do this for anybody. I could actually be somebody whose life is about empowering people to fulfill on their dreams.
Mm.
That's a life worth living. So I started my nonprofit inside of that. I started working with Landmark inside of that vision, and my community work with the different organizations, the high schools and the board of directors with my build. All of it was about empowering people's vision to be real. So I got to spend the last 30 some odd years inside of that game
Wow.
by
Whew.
design. It wasn't an accident. I designed it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You are a creator. We're creators, but you decided to take that step, take that action. So kudos to you for that. Definitely. So I know with your practice and your coaching practice, you're impacting people, but I want you to paint the picture, right? I'm very visual.
Mhm.
How do you go about implementing your coaching practice of empowering others?
Well, it's definitely not one size fits all. So when I do one-on-one coaching, which I do, it's very much I just listen to what people are dealing with. And mostly I listen for what's in the way of what they want to accomplish. And I go after that to dismantle that so that they're freed up to actually fulfill on what they want. When I work with people in groups, it's similar, but there's a group dynamic
Hmm.
that occurs where if I'm working with you, if you and I are interacting together, like what's your vision for this podcast? Like what's your vision for what you're up to with what you're doing right now? Like I'm
To
actually asking you. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay, it's definitely so. It's
Yeah.
to basically number one, shine light on your story. Number two, provide inspiration to others, and hopefully impact. Those are things right there.
Yeah, totally. And that's what you're in action on, right? So then I would
Hmm.
ask you, okay, so what messes with you when it comes to fulfilling on what you say you want to fulfill on?
I like that. I like that.
So, but I'm working with you, and then if there's 100 other people in the Zoom room or whatever, they're learning from what you're saying because
Yeah,
people identify with each other and they
true.
get coached peripherally
Hmm.
through my coaching of you. So it's very organic, and it emerges out of the conversation. It's not like this module and that module. It's very much interactive
Interactive. Okay.
is the best way to say it.
Oh, that's great right there. Okay. So if someone were looking for a coach, right, what traits would you advise them to look for?
Well, I think it's a very personal thing. I think you should definitely interview the coach. I always
Hmm.
do a 15-minute discovery call just to see if we're a good fit, because sometimes somebody's not, they could be a great coach, but they're not a good fit for you,
True.
you know? So, it depends on what I'm looking for. Like when I hire coaches, and I do, because any good athlete knows that you need a good coach to see things that you can't see
Yes, indeed.
so that you can be who you want to be. So I hire coaches, and I work with coaches all the time. I look for somebody who's going to talk straight to me, not dance around stuff, not
Hmm.
like talk to me like I need some sort of coddling. I don't like that. I like straight talk. I like people to speak to who I am so I can
Hmm.
rise to the occasion,
I like that.
not speak to like my worries or considerations or fears so I shrink to the occasion.
Hmm.
So I look for people who are authentic, people who are straight talking, and I don't like when, for me, I don't want to get on some sort of call and have to wonder, okay, how much is it? How much time is it? I don't want to have to wait till after an hour presentation to know what I'm in for. I want to know right away, so that I know if this is something that I'm even going to engage in a conversation about. So that all is what I look for in a coach. But if somebody else were looking for a coach, I would look to see, what is it that you respond well to, or what are you willing to be uncomfortable with, and see if that coach is willing to take you there, because you're not going to grow if you're not uncomfortable. As an athlete, I'm sure you can relate to that. In football, you didn't, it wasn't a comfortable practice.
Never,
you were
never.
you were doing drills and saying, I can't do it, not one more, and the coach said 10 more, and then you were able to expand your ability. And that's what a good coach does. They see what you don't see, they say what you don't want to hear, so that you can be who you want to be.
Yes, indeed. And this is why, if you look at the successful people out there, for instance, like Tom Brady. Tom Brady
Hmm.
has 9 coaches.
Exactly. Smart, because he's smart. And listen, it's not that the coach is a better football player. No, but they see things that Tom can't
Exactly.
see, and that's the
Hmm.
beauty of coaching. That's what I love about what I do, is I get to see the blind spots and illuminate them for people.
Exactly. And this is why I love having conversation with coaches, and this is why this podcast is about interviewing coaches and executives.
Smart. It's
You know,
great because everybody can get something out of every podcast, because every coach has a different take.
exactly, exactly. So now I want us to dive into some of your success stories, right? Because I love storytelling. I love love storytelling. So I want you, even though I know you've been in this industry for years, you are a veteran, but can you please share 1 or 2 stories of when you utilize your framework to help one of your clients to overcome the obstacle and get into a successful place?
Wow, there's so many things. I'm just trying to think. Just this morning, I was working with one of my clients early this morning, who just got, I mean, I've been working with him for a few years, and now he just got a promotion. He just, had this proposal that he presented at work, get accept, but now he was in overwhelm.
Okay.
Right. So he's like, oh my God, now there's so much to do. There's so much to do. So I just stopped him right there. I said, first of all, overwhelm's not a real thing. That's not real. So if you look out in the world, like, this lipstick is a real thing, right? There's no overwhelm like this lipstick. Overwhelm is a conversation. And
Mhm.
when you get into a conversation called overwhelm, it becomes like a lens that everything gets seen through. So if I had green glasses on, or blue glasses on, and you brought in a yellow car, it would look green to me. And I'd be right about that it was green, even though it's not really green, it's yellow. But it doesn't matter what's reality. It's only the lens through which you're seeing that allows you to
Perception.
see what you're seeing, right? So if you
Mhm.
have overwhelm glasses on, now everything's going to start showing up as like too much. Oh, I'm not going to have time to shower. All this drama, right? So I stopped him right away, and I said, okay, so you could look at it like things are chaotic right now, because that was another word he used. It's chaos right now. Okay, another not real thing. There's no such thing as chaos in reality. There's just whatever's happening. I said, so you could look at it as chaos, or you could put a new lens on, called, now you get to move the pieces around. You have a new game to play, so you get to place the pieces where you want. He's like, "This is why I called you. This is exactly why I called you." He goes, I came on this call so stressed, and now I'm at peace and I can see what there is to do." So we just started making a list of what there was to do. We started scheduling stuff. Overwhelm disappears when you're actually dealing with reality.
Mm.
So that was just a small little thing that happened this morning. But, I've had people, oh God, this makes me cry. I was working with recently a woman who I've known for many years, but she, just started working with me as a coach, and she was dealing with this surgery that had gone wrong a couple of years ago, and this surgeon who she had a real issue with. And this guy was taking up a lot of space in her brain. She hadn't seen him in a couple of years, but she was so upset and like the victim of what had happened, and, getting ready to do a new surgery, but she was still in this whole negative conversation about what had happened and about this guy. And I worked with her to get complete with the surgeon, so that she wasn't resenting him anymore. She wasn't regretting that she had done, she was so in the world of regrets and resentments, and she got that all complete. And now she's like happy about the surgery she's about to do rather than having to do it because this guy messed up and da 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 da. This whole like spiteful, angry victim world that she had been in, and it had been affecting her relationship with her kids and her husband, and her life was just, dampened with upset. And that all got lifted up out of the work that we did together over about like a 3-week period. And she's now in a totally different space, and she's able to like be present with her kids and be excited about what she's about to embark on in this new chapter and not be fixing something that got messed up.
The power of coaching.
And the
Wow.
power of context,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. That's such a beautiful story right there. So, Jocelyn, I pretty much know this already, but I'm gonna ask you regardless, right?
Sure.
What drives you?
Well, it's funny. I would say just my automatic answer would be like people fulfilling their dream, but it really isn't. It is that, but it's more the magic that happens when people are free
Mm,
from any constraint. So they're free to fulfill their dreams. They're free to be present with their family. They're free to get the job done that they just created. Be careful what you wish for, it might come true. But now you're like, I think it's really freedom.
mm, mm. And would you say freedom has different faces?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I worked. This is like this goes back to your other question. I don't know if you want to hear another story of somebody, but
Talk to me. We have some
yeah,
time.
this another one that makes me cry. I mean, I'm going to think of 1,000 stories, but this one woman who I was working with in a course that I was leading, and she started talking about how she had been trafficked when she was a young girl at
Wow.
11. And yeah, I know, not light stuff, right? She had been trafficked by her mother. Her
Mm,
mother sold her to um, royals and the elite in Europe. And she was trafficked all around the world, right? So now she's in her 50s when I was working with her. So this is now 40 years earlier, right? And out of the work that we were doing together, she called her mother on a break of the course
whew,
and forgave her.
it's powerful right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that schooled me. It's like, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you,
Hmm.
because she had been living with this resentment in her heart. So she was still in prison. So she gave up the resentment. It doesn't mean she condoned what she did, obviously, doesn't condone or even understand what her mother did or what the motivations could have been as a parent, right? But she gave up the resentment and called her and she said, I'm forgiving you for me. And her mother said, this is the call I've been waiting for 40 years.
Mm,
And they were free,
wow.
free to have a relationship, free to not have a relationship, but free. And I don't think I'll ever get over those kind of interactions, where people have been constrained for decades and in 20 minutes are able to be free from whatever that constraint is. That's magic.
That is that is magic. That's whew.
Yeah, right? I mean, this is the privilege that I've had
Yeah.
for,
Wow.
and including, the people that I work with in my nonprofit. I work with mostly leaders that have nonprofits or work with
Hmm.
nonprofits, and they're out to make a real difference and impact in communities. And I've worked with people who, you know, they've watched their family be shot in front of them.
Yeah.
And to see those people find freedom through forgiveness, I don't know, I'd like to think I'm the kind of person who could forgive that, and maybe I would, but that would be a tough one, right? These are
Hmm.
huge people that are more committed to being free than being right.
Those are powerful words right there. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, people are huge that are more committed to being free than being right.
Oof.
And you don't have to have watched your family
Mm,
be shot to
mhm.
listen. Look at the war you're in with your mother-in-law or your ex business partner or whatever. It's so much about being right, or, you know, what's more important, being free, being at peace, or being right?
Yeah, I think lots of people could take a note from that because we tend to put ourselves in our own prisons by our mindset. We tend
Yeah.
to hold on to guilt. We tend to hold on to these things. When you're holding on to a chain, right, and somebody's pulling that chain, you're doing yourself more harm than good. When you finally
Yeah.
release that chain, you feel so much better.
And people don't realize they're the ones that are having the grip. They think it's somehow outside of them. It's like, no, it takes
Mhm.
one person to end a war. One
Whew.
person.
Jocelyn, I think you're not going to become best friends.
I love it.
This is awesome right here. So, are you currently working on any new projects that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I actually just launched a free program for people. It's a 5-day program that, comes to you in your inbox so you can do it at your leisure, but it's called a Dream Source Discovery Process. And I'm really excited about it because so far the feedback has been very excellent in terms of what it's opened up for people. But it begins people on the process of being able to live the life of their dreams now versus someday and develop the muscle of being unmessable with. So it's like an entree to the world that I work in. My website is theartofbeingunmessablewith.com, but
Hmm.
this is like a doorway into that world through your dreams.
Awesome, awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so Jocelyn, where can people go to inquire more about that specific service and also to learn more about you?
Well, the website's theartofbeingunmessablewith.com. So that has all the information. But the gift, my free program, you can just go to giftfromjoss, JOSS.com. Giftfromjoss.com.
Nice and simple. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Jocelyn, thank you for coming on today's podcast and blessing us with your presence and your amazing stories. Right?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Awesome, awesome. I would also like to thank all of our listeners and viewers for lending us their ears and their eyeballs. And now, last but not least, I have one last question for you, and that
Okay.
is, how may I serve you?
Oh, well, this conversation has served me. Being able to share about the opportunities that I've had and the people, what they've created out of working with them, that serves me. It fills my heart. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. You've already served me today.
That's awesome right there. I'm glad I could
Mm.
make that happen. Again, this is your host, Thomas Johnson. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with someone else that would benefit. And make sure to tune in for next week's episode. Take care, be blessed, and cheers. We're out.